Hello to everyone all over the world. Magkakasama na naman tayo sa panibagong kwentuhan this Saturday evening here at Usapang Lockdown. And for today, we will be joined by my uncle, author, and businessman, Tito Vas Bismark. Hello, Tito Vas!
Hi Jake, thanks for having me.
So, how are you doing naman?
I'm good, we're good. Family's good. We were adjusting fairly well. At least the baby gets to go out and play with the park and the lake. So that's all I could actually ask for. We were just lucky we have space to go around.
So, since we've talked about the quarantine, kasi syempre now na we have this new normal, how do we find the balance? How do we balance things and how do we manage the situation? For example now, ang daming distractions when you do something. Ang hirap mag-deal with the distraction. So, paano ba yun nababalance?
With regards to distractions and how to establish your productivity, I think that's where discipline kind of comes in. Helps a lot when you fix your space. Like our regular normal prior to COVID, it was all about you going to work and then from work coming home. There was a designated place for you to rest. So home was always associated with being chill, relaxed. And now that we don't have that, I think it's very important to try to keep a semblance of routine. So if you woke up at 5, I suggest you retain the same kind of routine if you want to follow it. Environment really has a huge factor. So I think it's just really trying to make the adjustments in your end.
Yun nga parang yun yung mahirap sa time now. Like for example ako, I have that difficulty na for example, like I'm editing, every now and then, laging may mga distractions.
Isn't life already filled with distractions? And I think distractions is a part of life already. And so I think in terms of managing the distractions, it comes with a balance of focus. So one of the things that really comes into play is your ability to fixate on your goal. I would admit that there was this phase wherein you feel like you're doing more work than you usually do because you don't have this downtime of being stuck in traffic. Like for those who are working or for those who are students, they understand this that being in traffic, traveling would mean at least an hour or two. There's a lot of chill time in between. So already 4 hours of your day, like an additional 2 to 4 hours a day that you could actually make use of. There's no more travel time. You're already there. You can get started with work or study, whichever profession you're really into. What I did find is useful is learning how to adjust with the new amount of time. Before we were always rushing. That was something that everybody got used to, is just the whole rush and the whole I gotta get this done, and there's just really so much things to do, and we always try to squeeze it within our work hours because we don't have time for it. Now that we have the time for it, we kind of have an opposite problem wherein I have so much time on my hands, like, but I can't stop. Like part of what really helps is learning how to disassociate. I have to relearn to actually welcome the distraction because I think the distraction or the struggle when we have a momentum when we're working, it's like I have a baby at home. So like when I'm working and she suddenly wakes up or my wife needs help, I normally get pulled with whatever I'm working on to go help out. Or sometimes I actually just step out and I have to make, a meal, help cook lunch. Kind of like the reset that I had to make was figure out, okay, how much time do I actually spend working? And it becomes more of an allocation of time. Okay, I can allow myself a 30-minute break and then, I'll just continue later on. And I think what this quarantine has given us is an opportunity to break things down to a smaller piece. Means my day right now, given the new normal of being in quarantine, not having to go to work, is interesting. Like I tell myself, I ask myself, I make a list. What are the things I need to do today? It's not about what I need to accomplish overall. It's actually small pieces. Like there is that need, like I have to fix the garden, but instead of forcing myself to finish the task, the big task, I break it down into pieces. I know I was supposed to fix the garden, but all I could manage was repotting or replanting one to two plants, and I put them in wherever they are. So all I managed to do was do a little thing, and that's probably what 10-15 minutes that I was able to do. But since I'm just going to be at home, and then I could do another one later on, and I find it easier really, and I do feel like I'm getting more things done rather than when I try and sit and just binge on whatever activities. There becomes this, I could do it. There really isn't the same rush, apparently, and I find it a little bit more relaxed. And I think when people learn how to relax a little bit, look at it in a way that you actually have more time in your hands now more than ever. If you want to accomplish something, do it, little by little. Take your pace. I'm not saying to push things aside, but rather be more in the moment, and whatever it is that you need to do, if a distraction comes in the form of family priority that comes in, be it your child, your wife needs something, or your mom needs something, needs help, I say do it. What helps is really understanding what your priorities are. The way I've prioritized it is family, work, and then anything that is leisure. If ever you encounter something like, okay, this one is work related, and then this one is family related, like, you just weigh with yourself, what is it really urgent? Maybe they need my help. I take like 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes off my day, and then help them out, get that out of the way, and then go try and go back into your workspace. Yes, there are people that would think that it's distracting, but I think it's a way of how you prioritize things and the way you look at it.
Siyempre, at this time of quarantine, may mga feelings tayo of being productive, unproductive. Sometimes, we feel very parang guilty na we are being so productive. So, how do we deal with yung mga times na we feel guilty na we're not doing anything, and we feel guilty na we're being so productive? Parang ganun.
I understand that everybody goes through this wherein they feel like they're not doing enough in their life. There comes a point wherein some people are saying, oh, I need to do so much more, or I have so much more to go, and there's still so many things that need to be done. My answer is life is not a sprint. It's a marathon, meaning to say it's better to keep your pace. Now, the times that you are unproductive, I like to coin it a little bit different in terms of mentality. The way you should look at it is how you spend your time recharging. Like your phone can't be on the whole time. It has a downtime. It needs to recharge. A person's body and mind is the same. When you are being productive, you are exerting a lot of energy, and you need to recuperate from the stress of that exertion. This is why there's such thing as burnout point. When somebody goes through so much stress and so much output and productivity, and they don't get the rest that they need, they crash and they burn. It's healthy to have these moments wherein you have downtimes and resting. The capability of a person is very different person to person. It definitely varies. For people who are not used to being productive, a small exertion into doing something, they need like a long period of rest. And this is something that you have to understand. They're just really not used to it. If you look at this sense of productivity and ability to produce something and compare it to a muscle, a person who doesn't work out is not going to be able to do much lifting. So, I mean to say the kind of load that you should start them off with should only be based on what they can actually handle. So everybody's capacity to lift and engage in terms of productivity is the same. It is kind of like different, but the same in the sense that they can only do what they can, and then they need the required time to rest in order for them to recover from that strain. Since we're talking about productivity as a type of muscle, it's also like that. A person can train themselves to experience and push themselves to this soreness and uncomfortable parang position of discomfort, meaning to say it's just enough to push you to your limits so that you're able now to carry a greater load next time around. And that is something that needs to be trained, and it takes a course of time and patience for that to take place, so that it strengthens a person and it doesn't break a person. So for me, I think rest time is very important, and it's really part of the process. Our mind is kind of like a muscle. You need to sharpen it, you need to strengthen it. So the stress load that you experience mentally is something that you should also learn how to relax and let go. That's one thing like I think is interesting, is that when you set goals for yourself, it places on you like a task, like this is how much I need to do. When we ask ourselves, why are you pushing yourself so hard? Oh, because this is the level of competition I need to beat. If I need to beat this level of competition, I need to work extra hard to get there. And I'm at and knowing where you are is great. Knowing where you're going is even better, so that you know what direction you're going to be doing. And then now we can now talk about focus, because focus is about doing those things that are in relation to that goal that you've set for yourself. And distractions now become something that takes time, effort, and energy away from that goal that you've placed upon yourself. That becomes now relative. So if you're setting yourself at a high bar or something a little bit lower, maybe your dreams and aspirations isn't like to the moon, but you know, a little bit better, like hanggang dito lang yung gusto mo. Because there are people like that. They have worked for a very long time, and they have the capacity to do more, and so they have an opportunity for a promotion, but they decide not to take on that promotion because they're happy where they are, and that this is where you have contentment, because they have already achieved the goal that they wish to accomplish, and they're happy where they are. In a sense, it's not always about pushing the boundaries. Not necessarily does it mean that, you know, the more successful you are in terms of material perspective, it doesn't necessarily entail the happier you are. So not necessarily does it mean like the more successful you are, the more happy you are. Fields of success and measurements of happiness doesn't necessarily coincide. And I think this is where people need to understand productivity is relative to what field you're pursuing and what goals you've set for yourself. So on a self term is, I can be doing something to you might consider unproductive, but it's simply because our perception of success is very different.
As we mentioned earlier, how do we deal with those kinds of distractions that are being hurdles to our goals?
One of the first few steps is be honest with yourself. And then secondly, be patient with yourself. Now, being honest with yourself is kind of being aware of what you're feeling, understanding where you are right now. And it's taking into account and consideration your present self, you know, where your mindset is. And then two, not get frustrated that you're not where you want to be. That's the second portion that you need to have. In terms of setting realistic goals or achievable goals, more of set a goal and see how far you go. And then based off of what your energy is today and how much you get to achieve, then it's a very different, you know, measurement. Like I used to be an athlete, and I used to be a competing athlete, and I used to, you know, work out, you know, twice a day. I would train twice a day for 2 hours. And the thing is, like today, I can barely do what I used to do before. There is always this sense of frustration that I'm no longer able to do what I used to do. So if you tell me yesterday you were able to do this much work and today you're not able to do the same amount of work, and then it becomes a frustrating sense like I should be doing more. Why am I not getting better? And the answer is always, you know, there are a lot of factors that are involved. Number one, you probably don't have the same level of motivation. Number two, you're mentally, you know, stressed, or something emotionally is bothering you. There's just really so many things. So, meaning to say, in terms of consistency of what you're able to do in terms of output, the only measurement that you should have is like, am I doing my best today? And if my best is getting this much done, then you should be happy. If this was your best even though it was less than what it was yesterday, but you still gave your maximum effort, I would still say that you did your 100% and that you should still be happy. I think the pressure comes with when you're focusing too much on the external factors. Like external factors is measurement of how much you try to do. There's this interesting story that I was given actually, and I want to share it with you. And the story is about the lumberjack. The lumberjack's job was to cut wood. So on his first day, he chopped down 100 trees. That was how much he can accomplish that day. The following day, he went out and said, this time I'm going to go try and cut more trees. And at the end of the day, even with his best efforts, he only managed to cut 90. And through the course of the months, every single day he started doing less and less until finally one day he was unable to chop one tree. Would you know why?
Why?
The reason why he was chopping and cutting less and less was because his axe has gotten dull. It's not as sharp as it used to be. So the moral of the story is that your mind is like a blade. If you don't sharpen it on a daily basis, even if you apply your maximum effort, it's not gonna cut the same because it has been dull. So when we go through our work, go through some process of, when you use it, it dulls. The thing is, we're so focused on the results and we're so focused on the effort and the power that needs to be applied. We forget that sometimes we just need to sharpen our blade and get rid of the dullness to be able to get the job done. So doing your best is not about maximum effort, but rather it is a combination of a few things. Your current experience of what you know and applying your best attempt, that is your best. The formula to do better is about taking in what you learn from experience, applying now the same amount of maximum effort, also removing the mistakes. So you get closer and closer to something and you become more efficient what it is that you do.
Yeah, I agree kasi sometimes it's not solely based on our consistent effort. Sometimes we forget that there are other factors involved kung bakit. For
Hmm.
example, our performance is decreasing, we are not consistent at what we do. Sometimes there are other factors involved din naman eh.
Ultimately, like, in a person's life, there are a lot
Mm.
of different motivators. Like, some people run on different motives,
Yeah.
different types of,
Mm-mm.
reward system. And some are very emotional, some are very, like, logical.
Mm-mm.
And there's just so many differences, really, that everybody is a different creature on its own. And that's the interesting part about it, is that every person is different. And I like to believe
Mm-mm.
that every person has their own level of intelligence. As
Yeah.
Albert Einstein says, is that, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, then it would live its life believing that it's stupid.
How can you find the motivation to do something when you yourself you are unmotivated to do your goals or to accomplish your goals?
You surround yourself with friends who are like-minded in the same goal. This is where it kind of comes in. An African proverb goes is that if you want to go fast, you should go alone. But if you want to go far, you should go together. And the way this works is that yes, you can achieve a lot of things when there's nobody else that's in
Mm-mm.
your way. But for you to actually be able to sustain in any long endeavor,
Mm-mm.
there really is going to be a time where it gets difficult, and this is where your discomfort zone is. That feeling you get after working out, you get really sore and you don't want to get out
Mm-mm.
of bed. Don't you think that you need somebody who's going to tell you, no, you have to get up? This is why you need your coach who's going to tell you, that's going to try and push you to get up, and you
Mm-mm.
need that person. And I think it's a very integral part of actually pursuing something, because when you're pushing yourself to your limits, there are moments that you're going to crack, that you're going to break, and you're going to fall, and you
Mm-mm.
need somebody to help you and encourage you to get back up on your feet, like that can tell you, no, don't give up, keep going. Some people feed on the power of proving people wrong. So the more people that don't believe in them, they're more likely to succeed because they want to prove everybody wrong. And I mean, there's different kinds of motivation, but motivation really comes Internally is when you have your burning desire to do something. And I think one of the things, if you find yourself like, being not motivated enough, one of the things that you could do for yourself is find a compelling reason why you should do something. Let's say, for example, let's make it a little bit more practical. Let's take working. If you're working for money and you get demotivated, and you don't really have a compelling reason why you need the money because it's going to feed your family or something. You're single and you don't really need the money, but you want to get rich. So there's like the dream. Compelling reason that forces you to do it is not very strong. You're most likely not going to go to work that day. If your compelling reason is, I'm going to go to work because if I don't go to work, somebody's not going to eat at home. Even if you're sick and even if you're down and under, I think you're still going to go to work because you have to. Having a compelling reason to do something is very important. And they say, like, your compelling reason on why you should do something should be as urgent as breathing. Can you hold your breath?
Yeah, but not for a long time.
Exactly. So we can't stop breathing. We can hold our breath for a short duration of time, but
Yeah.
we cannot stop breathing. Only probably like 5 minutes without air, and then you die. So that's why they say, like, if you have the urgency and need to do something, because that is what breathing is for you, you should be motivated to do it, not because you want to do it. You do it because you have to do it, because if you don't do it, you're gonna die. If you don't breathe, you're gonna die.
Yeah, sobrang true yung to surround yourself with people who will motivate you,
Yeah.
or kahit negative, sometimes negative nga eh. For example, you are motivated when people don't believe in you na kaya mong gawin yung mga bagay-bagay, 'di ba?
Like, just case in example, like your mom. How many times has she woken you up so that you go to school and you didn't want to leave your bed? There
Yeah.
are some
Mm.
times that she really has to wake you up and you don't want to
Yeah.
go to school. You have to, because she throws you out of the of the house, and then you have to go to school. The people who love us will always push us to do the things that we need to do. That's one of the things in terms of you should always make time and priority for is surround yourself with people who love you, and you'd be sure enough be able to tell that they're always looking after you.
So before we end this, do you have any advice for people struggling with finding the motivation or struggling with their goals right now in this time of pandemic?
For those who are struggling with finding a
Mm,
purpose or a goal, I think the most important part for you right now is
mm,
to really slow down, take your time, be present in the moment. And once you kind of have a semblance of your bearings, look into things that bring you joy and bring you happiness. Kind of like do more of the things
mm,
that make you happy
mm,
and do less of the things that actually cause you stress. And what I'm saying is, like, there are necessities. It's really more of testing waters. There are things that will make you happy. There are things that's not. So I suggest, if you haven't found something that makes you happy just yet, then learn to do something new. Pick up a new skill, pick up a new book, because in your process of learning, it's a form of exploration, and you don't know what you'll find out there, and you also won't know what you find within yourself. So that's my advice for people who don't know what to do. For those who are people who are struggling with productivity, learn to rest, because it might just be you're just too exhausted, at this point. That's why you're unable to, have a semblance of clarity in your mind. That's always my answer first and foremost. For those people who are overwhelmed, is take a break enough so that you can actually think about what you're going through, and you can connect and understand and take a step back and see the bigger picture. And then once you see a bigger picture, I think you'll be able to process what you should do next. And that's all on your own. In terms of productivity as well, and people who are setting goals, case in point is, don't be too harsh on yourself. So don't get too frustrated you're not achieving your goals just yet. Okay? It takes time and process, understand your own capacity, and work on building yourself so that you're able to achieve the milestones that you actually have. As long as you're taking those small steps towards it and you're doing something in connection and pushing that and honing your craft, then that's good enough. Any investment you make into it is a good investment.
I agree with that. So there we have it. That's it for today's Kwentuhan. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Tito Vas, for sharing your knowledge and your insights and your advice.
Thanks for having me, Jake.
So that's it for today's episode. Join me again next week here at Usapang Lockdown. Thank you, guys.